जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय श्रील प्रभुपाद हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय हरे कृष्णा anybody remembers what did we cover last week until verse number 40 we had done anybody remembers the essence of what was covered by Prabhu last week Sushil Prabhu Rao Prabhu
Prabhuji,
yes
Prabhuji, we discussed about the context of Vishwavirat Swarup came. Basically, we understood what is the unmanifested form, and we understood that one. In everything, Krishna is in it, and he is in the Goloka Vrindavan. There are 8 outer coverings are there. So after these 8 layers, we have a spiritual world, and spiritual world has no beginning or no end. And we discussed about these different names like Adoksara,
correct
so those things, and we discussed about what is Stula, Sukshma. So it's basically what we said is uh, Sukshma is not like very small, but it is beyond our Panchendriyas. And Stula is what we can see using, or we can pursue using our Panchendriyas.
correct
Then we discussed about words like monoism, pantheism, like Advaitavadi, multiform, and unmanifested. And we discussed about Tripada Vibhuti. And we understood that Krishna is not bound by any sort of activity and he need not perform any activity.
perfect
So whatever he's doing is it's basically doing for us. Then we discussed about Brahma, Krishna, Narayana, Shiva, because there are different qualities are there. Krishna has got total 64 qualities, whereas
correct
Narayana has 60, Shiva has got 55,
correct
and Brahma has got 50. So we discussed about Jiva Tattva and Vishnu Tattva,
correct
and one context of when Vishnu takes Brahma position,
nice
and Lord is unlimited and we are limited. And even we discussed about in the context of Shankaracharya, we discussed at the end, he also says that one Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Modamate. So that is the ultimate thing. He also realized it. So these are the things
Beautiful.
we discussed.
Beautiful. Excellent. Anybody would like to add any point? Uh, Prabhu has covered most of the points anyway. So actually, if you see, Sushil Prabhu, please, you want to say?
Prabhu, the whole chapter is going on how Mahavishnu is doing the creation work.
Correct.
We have that is the primary creation which is being carried out, and how various things have come in existence because of the requirement of Mahavishnu, and all these things are being discussed in various in the whole chapter, and especially in the whatever done we last week is already covered by Rao Prabhu.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So if you look at it, the whole chapter can be summarized in just a few verses. That anything and everything that gets created is happening because of the Lord. What gets created is the aspect of the details of meaning going into the individual element and describing it and saying why was it created, because of what did the Lord want to do, because of which a respective action or organ was created. That is the details aspect. But there are these two verses, with verse number 35 and verse number 45. Yeah, 45 or 43. Yeah, 45. So verse number 35 and verse number 45, they are the kind of a principal level verses which actually highlight why this whole thing is being talked about, and what is even more than that. So Prabhupada has constantly mentioned that the Virat Roop, the universal form, is actually a aspect within the material nature. It doesn't exist in the spiritual nature. So that's why Prabhupada always mentions that the spiritual forms of Vishnu, Narayan, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Krishna, Vasudev, all of these are superior to this Virat form. But then why is he speaking about it? That is actually spoken in verse number 45, which we will learn today. And then how does it link? Because Bhagavatam is purely bhakti, right? So then if this is not meant for bhaktas, then why is it being spoken here? And if this is not meant for bhaktas, then what is meant for bhakta? That also should be a question that comes automatically. So let's start with verse number 41. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, verse 41. Sattvam Rajastama iti Tisrah Sura nu Nrunarakaha Tatrapyekai Kasho Rajan Bhidyante Gataya Stridha Yadaikai Kataro Nyabhyam Vabhava Upahanyate. Can somebody read the translation?
Yes, Prabhu. According to the different modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of darkness, there are different living creatures who are known as demigods, human beings, and hellish living entities. O king, even a particular mode of nature being mixed with the other two is divided into three, and thus each kind of living creature is influenced by the other modes and acquires its habits also. The living entities individually are being conducted by a particular mode of nature, but at the same time, there is every chance of their being influenced by other two, generally all conditioned souls in the material encasement are influenced by the mode of passion because every one of them is trying to lord it over the material nature to fulfill his individual desire. But in spite of the individual mode of passion, there is always a chance of being influenced by the other modes of nature by association. If one is good in as good associate, if one is in good association, he can develop the mode of goodness, and if in bad association, he may develop the mode of darkness or ignorance. Nothing is stereotyped. One can change his habit by good or bad association, and one has to become intelligent enough to discriminate between good and bad. The best association is the service of the devotees of the Lord, and by that association, one can become the highest qualified man by the grace of the Lord's pure devotees. As we have already seen in the life of Srila Narad Muni, he became the topmost devotee of the Lord simply by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. By birth, he was a son of a maidservant and had no knowledge of his father and no academic education, even of the lowest status. But simply by associating with the devotees and by eating the remnants of their foodstuff, he gradually developed the transcendental qualities of the devotees. By such association, his taste for chanting and hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord became prominent. And because the glories of the Lord are non different from the Lord, he got direct association with the Lord by means of sound representation. Similarly, there is the life of Ajamil, sixth canto, who was the son of a Brahman and was educated and trained properly in the discharge of the duties of a Brahman, but who, in spite of all this, because he contacted the bad association of a prostitute, was put into the path of the lowest quality of Chandal, or the last position of the human being. Therefore, the Bhagavatam says, Bhagavatam always recommends the association of the Mahat or the great soul for opening the gate of salvation. To associate with persons engaged in lording it over the material world means to enter into the darkest region of the hell. One should try to raise himself by the association of the great soul. That is the way of the perfection of life. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So this verse actually marks the start of the uh, reaching to the conclusion of this knowledge. Okay, and that's why the mode of the three modes of material nature are being talked about here. Okay, now let us take it step by step to understand. So we all understand that there are three modes of material nature, right? Can somebody say what are they and what are the qualities of those modes? So what
Prabhu,
is it that happens in the mode of goodness, which doesn't happen in the mode of passion and ignorance, and for the other two also?
in the mode
Anybody?
of goodness, we are
Huh.
always in doing good things, or we will be doing more.
नहीं ऐसा नहीं है. It's not necessary that punya is done only by mode of goodness. Punya is done by passion also, sometimes even ignorant also. So mode of goodness is better than mode of passion and ignorance, but it is not the excellent mode. It doesn't mean that if you are in mode of goodness, you will be able to go back to Krishna. Okay. But it is better. Why? Because it at least helps you continue walking on the path towards Krishna. To understand this one, okay, we need to go to the 14th chapter. Okay, where in the 18th verse, Krishna says that, um, sorry, just one moment. Krishna says that there is the person who is in the mode of goodness always goes upwards, and adho gachanti tamasaha, the person in the mode of ignorance goes downwards. Okay. After speaking the descriptions of the mode of material nature, Krishna gives the conclusion of all of this in this 18th verse. Urdhvam gachanti satvastha. Gachanti is to go. Go where? Urdhvam. Urdhvam is above. So the people situated in satvastha, in the mode of goodness, they go upwards. madhye tishtanti rajasaha, meaning uh, the people in the mode of passion, they remain this, they are situated in the earthly planet. And Jaghanya Gunavrittistha, meaning Jaghanya, the mode of ignorance is very, very bad, very abominable. And that mode, Tamasa mode, such people, adhogachanti, is they go downwards into the hellish planets. Okay. Now just make a note of what Prabhupada said in this particular stuff here. On earthly planet, mostly people are in the mode of passion, right? Generally, all conditions, souls in the material engagement are influenced by the mode of passion, which actually he is referring to the people of earth. And look at this verse where Krishna uses the word gachanti for sattva and gachanti for tamasa also. But in the rajasa, he uses the word tishtanti. Okay, gachanti is to go. That means you are at a certain place and you are going somewhere. And tishtanti is to remain situated. That means you are at a place which is already influenced by rajogun and you will remain here. Okay, so that means what Prabhupada says is so correlatable here, that people on earth are generally influenced by the mode of passion. Okay, now this is simple to understand. People in the mode of goodness, they generally feel happy about knowledge, about doing good activity for others. Okay, they derive happiness from there. Passionate people, they get happiness by achieving a certain goal, achieving some kind of bodily pleasing activities, bodily kind of goals which help them pacify their senses. And ignorant people, the biggest problem of that is they do not understand what is right, what is wrong, and based on that they consider right as wrong and wrong as right, and they think that they, what they know is perfect, and they continue pursuing the not incorrect things. Okay, now we'll extend this particular verse now to the next aspect of this one. So, what Shukadev Goswami is saying here is, according to these three modes, there are different living creatures. Okay. Now, can somebody tell us what is the aspect, what is the role of of the mode of nature in the living creatures? Who can say this? Who knows about it?
Say, Prabhu, that trees and all these things, all these creatures, they are under, because they were in the mode of ignorance, they have become trees.
Correct. Fine. Okay, but now let's say a demigod comes in front of us. Will we know that he is in the mode of goodness or mode of passion or mode of ignorance? Same is
Demigods will be in the mode of in the mode of goodness only.
correct. Okay. So generally meaning our actions, because they give us the results, based on the results we understand whether that person is in the mode of goodness, passion or ignorance, right?
Sorry, but even demigods are subject to modes of material nature. No, so
Yes.
every, every human being or every living entity is subject to all three. So at any point in time, it keeps
Okay.
changing.
Okay, very good question. Let us look at certain verses of Bhagavad Gita which will give a complete clarity on this one. So, first, let us confirm that everybody is in at least one mode. Okay. Now, in the seventh chapter, Krishna talked about the material energy and the spiritual energy. I hope you remember this one. So, I will not speak in detail about this one. Okay. And then what he said, all created beings have their source in these two natures, which means there cannot be anything which is outside material energy or spiritual energy, right? So this concept we understand. Anything which is under the influence of spiritual energy is in the Vishuddha Sattva Gun. which is the pure mode of goodness, which is what we should go into. So, devotees who are 100% pure devotees of Krishna, they are in the Vishuddha Sattva Gun. They are under the protection of the spiritual energy. Those people who are under the protection of material energy, they are under the influence of modes of material nature, may it be goodness or passion or ignorance. So with this, what we understand is anything which is in the material world is under the influence of either goodness or passion or ignorance, right? This is now simple to understand. The planets, okay, heavenly planets, it could be Swargalok, Tapalok, Maharlok, Janalok, Brahmalok, whatever it is, they are still part of the Brahmanda. Because of that, they are under the influence of material energy, because of which they are in the influence of either goodness or passion or ignorance. They are not outside of any of this one. Okay, is this clear? Any question here? Nahi? Okay. Now let us go to verse number 40 of chapter 18. Okay. There Krishna, what he says, okay, there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is free from these three modes born of material nature. Okay, so this verse makes it 100% clear that demigods are also under the influence of modes of material nature. They could be in sattva gun, they could be in very, very high quality of sattva gun, but still it is part of the material world. It is the material sattva gun that they are under the influence of. Fine. So this is now clear. Now let's go back to chapter 14 again. Okay, verse number 10, let's look at. So when Krishna is describing these three modes of material nature, he starts off with verse number 6, he starts off, 5 actually, yeah, where he initially talks about the fundamental stuff, that these three modes exist and all that. Okay, he becomes conditioned by these modes when he comes in contact with material nature. Okay. Now the mode of goodness is purer than others, and the in 6, 7, and 8, Krishna talks about the what do you say? In Krishna talks about the qualities of each of the mode. Okay. Then the 9 talks about the positives and the reasons for becoming conditioned to a certain mode. After that, in verse number 10, he talks about how these modes interact with each other. So he's saying sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. And in this way, there is always competition for supremacy. Does anyone understand what this is? What does this mean?
At a given time or in a situation, we may act in the mode of goodness, but sometimes we may act in the mode of passion.
Correct. Excellent. Excellent.
It
So,
also means probably when the senses take more control, so you behave accordingly.
perfect. 100% perfect. Yes. So there are situations where we behave in a very nice manner, balanced manner, and all that. There are times when we lose our control. Yeah. There are times when our ego, our anger, and all that, we let them take control of us. Okay, like say for example, when you are walking on the street, or at a bus stop or a railway station, if somebody unintentionally comes and pushes you, जोर का धक्का लगा, तो what will happen? We may probably shout at that person. Hmm? But let's say we are in the temple एंड किसी का धक्का लग गया, मे बी उससे जोर से ज्यादा जोर से धक्का लगा, तो व्हाट विल वी डू? वी विल बी इन अ फॉरगिविंग मोड कि हाँ, इट हैपेंस, नो प्रॉब्लम, इट्स ओके, प्लीज टेक केयर. right? Incident is same, place is different. So the mode of goodness which is there in the temple actually becomes prominent and is able to invoke the mode of goodness within us. So when the mode of goodness and passion and ignorance which is within us, okay, and they fight among each other, the mode of goodness prevails. It is able to win, right? At other times, let's say कोई क्रिकेट का मैच देख रहा है कोई, ओके, द मोड ऑफ पैशन ऑटोमेटिकली इग्नोर्स, ये जीतना है मेरे को, ये करना ही है, ये करके वगैरह, राइट? दीज काइंड ऑफ फीलिंग्स स्टार्ट कमिंग इन. So, depending on what action you are doing, what situation you are in, how balanced you are, how much how much of Krishna you are remembering at that point of time, these modes play a role in controlling you, right? So, this is simple to understand. Now, let us extend this concept further. So, what Shukadev Goswami is saying is there are different living creatures who are either demigods or human beings or other type of entities. Okay. And they are created based on these modes. Simple to understand. Now, how how do we understand this one? Okay, let's go one more line here. Even a particular mode of nature being mixed with the other two is divided into three, and thus each kind of living creature is influenced by the other modes and acquires its habits also. Can somebody tell us what they have understood from this second line? Sumati Mataji, do you want to mention what you have understood out of this? नहीं? उदय प्रभु,
Nothing, Prabhu.
did you understand what does this mean? No? Okay. Rao Prabhu, you want to speak?
Yeah, probably as per my understanding, like a demigods may be having the more amount of mode of goodness, and human beings may have a more amount of passion, and other religious living entities will have a more sort of a mode of darkness.
Correct.
So if we get into the association or activities related to the demigods, maybe the mode of goodness will increase. But if we get associated with the other things, maybe our mode of darkness will increase. So I thought
Correct.
in that way.
Correct. Correct. That's correct. But let us look at the perspective of the mixing of these modes with each other. Okay. So Prabhupada had given this explanation in one of his lectures. So let's take three bowls of some substance. Let's say in the first bowl we have mode of goodness, in the second bowl we have mode of passion, in the third bowl we have mode of ignorance. So their composition is 100% each. Yeah, this is simple to understand. Then take a fourth bowl and take 50% of mode of goodness and 50% of mode of passion and put that in. Now the composition is 50% goodness, 50% passion. Similarly, take fifth and sixth bowl and take goodness and ignorance in the fifth bowl and passion and ignorance in the sixth bowl. Now all of these have 50% each in all the fourth, fifth and sixth bowl. Now take the fourth bowl and again mix it. Now take a seventh bowl and take 50% of goodness and 50% of fourth bowl, which is 50-50 of goodness and passion, and mix it. Now what happens? Goodness is 75 percentage, passion is 25 percentage. Then repeat this experiment for passion ignorance with the fourth bowl, fifth bowl, sixth bowl. So in the eighth bowl, you will mix the fourth bowl, which is goodness and passion 50-50, with passion also as 100 percentage, which means passion will become 75 percentage, goodness will become 25 percentage, and then add ignorance to it. That way क्या होगा? Every new bowl will have a new percentage of goodness and passion and ignorance का composition. Is this clear? Any query on this one?
Got it, bro.
हाँ ठीक है समझने को ओके. Now when you understand that, now there are these various bowls which have various different percentage of composition of goodness and passion and ignorance. So now we understand how when the living entities are created, these living entities have a different percentage of composition of goodness, passion and ignorance. Okay. So what Shukadev Goswami is highlighting here is even a particular mode of nature being mixed with the other two is divided into three. So different percentages of goodness, passion and ignorance, okay, come together to create a new mode of nature. Okay. And thus each kind of living creature is influenced by the other modes. So now today I have a certain composition of goodness, certain of passion and certain of ignorance. And based on that, it influences me. So the more goodness I have, the higher probability I will have that even in difficult circumstances, I will behave in a nice manner. The more passion or the more ignorance I have, the higher probability it is that I will behave wrong even in the right circumstances. Okay. Now, when these are created, now let us extend that concept further. So, do you remember there is one verse which talks about the division of the living entities? सुशील प्रभु याद है?
वो ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय
नहीं
वो
नहीं
ना.
नहीं. एक मिनट. ये मैंने अभी रिसेंटली एक भेजा था एक ग्रुप पे. एक मिनट, जस्ट गिव मी वन मोमेंट. हाँ, so there is this verse. I just don't remember where exactly it is. So I'll read that for you. Jalaja Navalakshani Sthavara Laksha Vimshati Krimayo Rudra Sankhyakah Pakshinam Dasha Lakshanam Trimsal Lakshani Pashavah Chatur Lakshani Manushah. What is this verse saying? That there are 900,000 species living in the water, that is Jalaja Navalakshani. Okay. Then there are 2 million non-moving living entities. Okay. That means 2 million types of trees, kind of species are there, such as trees, plants, and all that. Then there are Krimayo Rudra Sankhya. Rudra meaning 11, and the number of Rudras are 11. That they are Krimayo, that is insects and reptiles. Okay. They are 1.1 million, 11 lakh. And Pakshinam Dasha Lakshanam, that there are 10 lakh species of birds. And then Trimsal Lakshani Pashavaha, which means there are 3 million types of quadrupeds, four-legged animals. And Chatur Lakshani Manushaha, there are 400,000 types of human beings. Okay, so now we can understand how these 84 lakhs of species are made up. Yeah, you may have constantly heard of 84 lakh species are there. Yeah, types of living entities are there. The composition of these 84 lakhs is mentioned here. Now, when we understand this, we can now link both of them together. So, when you mix mode of goodness and passion and ignorance with each other and their composition with the previous ones and the new composition with all the previous ones, gradually you will reach to, when you keep mixing and mixing and mixing, you will come to 84 lakhs as the total species. Okay. Now these 84 lakhs being divided and this one. Okay. Now the next question comes up, that how are these decided whether they are in goodness or passion or ignorance? Are you able to understand, or is this complex to understand?
Yeah, this is
Able to follow,
basically you're
Prabhu.
talking of permutations and combinations of these qualities, right?
Yes, correct. And these permutation combinations are dependent on the mixing, the different proportions of goodness and passion and ignorance. Okay. Now, then the question comes up is fine. We understand that these divisions are there depending on the goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, what does it mean to us? So, we need to understand this one. Okay. Uh, okay. So, in the third canto, when Kapil Muni, Lord Kapila, explains the science of analytical science and devotional service also to his mother Devahuti, he speaks about the division of these living entities and their hierarchy. It's a very important concept for one to understand. Okay, I am taking a little bit longer on this verse alone because this is a very crucial concept. Okay, so let's look at these certain verses from 28 till 32. Can somebody one at a time read these translations?
Yeah,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhu.
Yeah, please.
Hare Krishna, text 28. Living entities are superior to inanimate objects. O blessed mother, and among them living entities who display life symptoms are better. Animals with developed consciousness are better than them, and better still are those who have developed sense perception.
Okay, just one moment. So, what is now being compared? Inanimate objects. That means matter which does not have life in it. That is at the lowest level. Yeah, that is simple to understand. So, non living things are at the lowest level, living things are above. Okay, so that is level 1. Okay, then he is saying among the living entities who display life symptom are better. So that means there are living entities who have life but do not display any symptom. They are just living but do not display any symptom. Okay, what are the 6 symptoms? Anybody knows of life? So it comes to birth, it grows, it produces some effect, it dwindles for some time, and then it vanishes. Okay, there are the 6 symptoms totally. So these life symptoms, which whoever displays, is better than those who do not display life symptoms but have life. Okay, then within that also, Krishna is saying that the people animals with developed consciousness are better than them. Okay, now there are trees and plants also which do not move, so they come below animals, and then above within animals, then saying he's saying with developed consciousness are better than them, and within that also those animals who have developed sense perception are better than those who do not have sense perception but just have some consciousness. Okay, now within the sense perception he makes further distinction. Yeah, somebody, can you read?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Among the living entities who have developed sense perception, those who have developed the sense of taste are better than those who have developed only the sense of touch. Better than them are those who have developed the sense of smell, and better still are those who have developed the sense of hearing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now if you see, there is a gradation further being done. So there are people who have developed sense of taste, but they do not have developed the sense of touch. So those who have developed sense of touch are better than those who do not have sense of touch, but have only sense of taste. Within them also, there are people who have sense of smell, but do not have sense of and sense of smell and touch, but do not have sense of smell. So the one with sense of smell is better. and one with sense of hearing is even better than the one who only have sense of smell. Okay, now let's go further. Okay, text number 30, can someone read please?
Better than those living entities who can perceive sound are those who can distinguish between one from and another. Better than them are those who have developed upper and lower sets of teeth, and better still are those who have many legs. Better than them are the quadrupeds, and better still are the human beings.
So now you see, now he has gone further level up. Okay, so those who are able to hear, okay, they are good, but better than them are those who are able to see as well and distinguish from the perspective of form. Okay, distinguish one from another. Better than them are the ones who have teeth. So you can understand that having teeth is also a symptom of being advanced on the spiritual level and the level of consciousness. Okay, better still are those who have many legs. Now if you take a reptile, okay, like a snake, okay, so snake has teeth, it is able to bite, it is better, but it doesn't have legs. So better than that could be a crocodile, who is a kind of a no, sorry, better than that could be a centipede. A centipede has hundreds of legs. Better than that could be a quadruped, a crocodile kind of stuff, who has four legs, or a lion or a tiger or something like that. Huh? And better than that are human beings who have two legs only. Now look at it, how he divides the human beings. Let's see that. Okay. So among
Among
human beings, yeah, please.
Among human beings, the society which is divided according to the quality and worth is best. And in that society, the intelligent men who are designated as Brahmans are best. Among the Brahmans, one who has studied the Vedas is the best. And among the Brahmans who have studied the Vedas, one who knows the actual purport of the Vedas is the best.
So now the division of human society is he is talking about. Yeah. So just being a human being is not sufficient. Are you working in a society, living in a society which is divided based on the varnashram dharma? So guna and quality, guna and karma, they are better. Within that also brahmanas are better. Within brahmanas, just being born in the family of brahmana is not sufficient. Have you studied the Vedas? If yes, then you are better. Within the study, people who have studied, one who understands the meaning of it is better. Okay, then let's look at it further. Now, this is the last verse where he talks about last the final division. Who can read?
Hallelujah, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Better than the Brahman who knows the purpose of the Vedas is he who can dissipate all doubts, and better than him is one who strictly follows the Brahmanical principles. Better than him is one who is liberated from all material contamination, and better than him is a pure devotee who executes devotional service without expectation of reward. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now the person, the Brahman who just doesn't know the purpose, just knows the purpose, okay, but not only the purpose, who is able to, meaning, address the queries of somebody, who is able to answer the doubts of others is better. But now this is again at a verbal level. Now he takes it further. He's saying that one who follows, who applies whatever he is teaching in his own life is better. Okay, and better than that, now just following is not sufficient. Now have you actually started to experience it? Have you started getting the results of it? So who is liberated from material contamination is even better. But just by being liberated from material contamination is not sufficient. Are you performing devotional service to Krishna? That person is even better. So you can understand that all of you who are devotees of Krishna are better in terms of your level of consciousness than majority of the living beings on earth. So this is what we come to know about it. Okay. Now having understood this one, okay, can somebody now explain how does this relate with eating non-vegetarian food? Who can explain this now? Amrit Madhav Prabhu ki jai ho. Thanks for joining the class. Are
Hare
you
Krishna.
Hare Krishna? Can you explain what do you think? How is this knowledge relevant with eating non-vegetarian food?
So, eating non-vegetarian food is not for the people, generally for the human beings, because it cannot come into the mode of goodness. And as there are the different categories of the living entities being explained with the combinations, permutation and combinations by referring the shlokas uh, uh, explained by uh, Kardamoni to Devhuti. So that comes in the category of animalistic life, animalistic of the category of the living entities.
Okay, but
Prabhu?
why? So if I eat plant,
Because
is it okay? And why is it okay?
So,
if you eat a plant, yeah.
sorry, yeah, sorry, Prabhu. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please, please.
Yes.
So now we understood that one different types of species, correct? Means we said this is better, this is much better, this is much better. So when they say it's better, I think the combination of this modes of material nature, so towards more mode of goodness and those things might be more. That's why they're becoming better. So by eating the non-veg, maybe these are all the things which are much lower in the level. We are eating them. Then based on that pattern, those qualities may start dominating in us. I don't know. I just thought in that.
Okay, so if this logic is to be applied, then when he says that those living entities uh, who are who do not have legs are inferior to the living entities who have legs, correct? So plants do not have legs; they cannot move, correct? So plants are inferior in terms of the modes of nature than the animals which have legs. So that way, then one should eat animals and not eat plants with that logic, correct? But Krishna
Yeah.
recommends eating plants, vegetables, fruits, flowers, and he doesn't recommend eating animals. So is that correct?
It's not correct, Prabhuji, because
Yeah.
having consciousness of this level, if you cannot understand the pain of others, then there is no difference between human and animal, Prabhuji.
Okay, good, nice, nice. So what does this division based upon? It is based on the consciousness. And the consciousness has a bearing from the modes of goodness also. So what happens, we need to understand when we say that we are at a certain level of consciousness. Okay. So we understand we are a soul, we are not the body. Who are we? What is our relationship with Krishna? We start understanding. But when we do not use the consciousness properly, we start going down to the level of lower consciousness. Correct? Let's say I have come across Bhagavad Gita, knowledge of Krishna in this life properly. Accordingly, I have been given the next life which helps me elevate further. But if I misuse that opportunity and I start associating with people who are demoniac and I start liking their association, gradually what will happen? My consciousness level will start reducing. I will start going down to their consciousness level, which means I have misused my consciousness. So what Krishna does then is gradually he starts putting us into lower and lower level of consciousness. So initially, based on the verse 2.40, Neha Vikamanashwasti, he may put us in the human life because he has given a guarantee he will put us in human life. But there also, if we start misusing or not using our consciousness, and then we will start going down. Gradually, then from human being species, we will start going to the quadruped species, then the centipede kind of species, then the legless species, then inanimate kind of objects and all that. Okay, so what this means is plants have the least level of consciousness. So, from the hierarchy of living entities, they are at the lowest level and they have actually done the lot of suffering now. So, they will have to start rising up by getting opportunities from Krishna from one species to another, and gradually start coming to the 84 lakhs to the human being level. With this perspective in a proper understanding, now we should understand that the probability, the level of consciousness determines the probability of how you will, how and when you will rise up to the level of human being. So when you are in the life of a plant, one has the least kind of probability and the maximum duration it takes for one to rise to the level of human being, taking birth in a human species. When you are in the animal species, you will take lesser time to come to the human being level. That is why Krishna is recommending. Now let us link this one. In verse 26, chapter 9, what does Krishna say? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparatam ashnami prayatatmanaha. He says, if one offers me with love and devotion a fruit, flower, leaf, or water, I accept it. Why does he say this one? For Krishna, each and every living entity is same, right? We are all his children. Aham bija pradapita. Then why does it distinguish between a tree body and a human being body or an animal body? Why does he not say ki Baba jivo jivasya jivanam? You can sustain your life on other living entities. So I acknowledge that, I understand. You cannot eat stones and mud and wood. You will have to eat something which is living being. So then why does he say कि बाबा plant ही चाहिए मेरे को, animal नहीं चाहिए? Because the plants have the least probability and the maximum duration to come to the human being level, because they have the least consciousness. तो इसके लिए उनको खाओ. So आप least trouble you are giving to some other living entity when you are sustaining your body. तो इतना सेल्फिश मत बनो कि फॉर द सस्टेनेंस ऑफ योर बॉडी यू गिव पनिशमेंट एंड ट्रबल्स टू समबडी हु विल फेस और फील अ लॉट. उससे अच्छा है कम से कम जिसको तकलीफ होगी वो खाओ. तो दैट्स व्हाई प्लांट खाना डजंट मीन वी आर नॉट डूइंग पाप. सिर्फ एनिमल खाने से ही पाप होता है ऐसा नहीं, प्लांट खाने से भी पाप होता है, बिकॉज प्लांट इज ऑल्सो अ लिविंग एंटिटी. And that is why where the question comes of offering food to Krishna. So he takes away the sins which come along with killing of another living entity. वो भोगा उसको चढ़ाते हैं. We do it for his satisfaction and we take that as prasad. That prasad helps us elevate our consciousness and everything becomes kind of in the right manner. पूरा पूरा ये जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ द होल प्लैनेट है वो चलता है उसके ऊपर से. इज दिस अंडरस्टैंडेबल? कोई क्वेश्चन है इसके ऊपर? वी आर गोइंग टू एक्सटेंड दिस पर्टिकुलर स्टफ टू वन मोर फाइनल कॉन्सेप्ट. एनी क्वेश्चन अराउंड दिस वन?
No problem.
Okay, so then
One thing, when you talked about the least trouble, So how can you qualify trouble? The plant is not undergoing a trouble and only animal will undergo trouble.
Based
I
on the
can understand from
consciousness.
the concept what you told in terms of the levels of consciousness, but the consciousness does not relate to the trouble, right?
Consciousness does relate to trouble. Let's say, for example, when you pluck out a hair of your body, okay, you feel the least pain. When you cut your nails, you may probably not feel any pain at all. Okay, when the finger gets cut, it gives a lot of pain, but still one doesn't lose the life. But if somebody's neck is chopped off, okay, from the body, he dies. So that is the maximum pain, right? So there are levels of pain also. So the way within one body different limbs of the body give different quantity of pain, similarly in different bodies different species feel different levels of pain. So when you pluck out a flower, okay, the plant does not feel any pain. Okay, when you pluck out a
No,
fruit.
now we are talking in the context of the least amount of pain. See, for our body, the nail does not undergo pain, but we undergo pain. Likewise, the earth might not undergo pain, but the plant by itself can undergo pain. Right? I was just trying to relate to. I don't want to debate about it, but I was just trying to get my mind in terms of understanding.
Hmm.
How does the consciousness relate to something in terms of us or being qualified, good or bad?
So the consciousness determines the quantity of pain that one undergoes. Okay. The more conscious you are, the more consciousness you have, the more uh, the more pain you can feel, because the more awareness about the existence of the limb against the whole body is. Okay, so the body of a human being is designed differently than the body of a tree and the body of an animal. So the tree's body is designed in such a manner that it is allowed, or it can bear fruits and flowers, okay, and or leaves which can be plucked out, causing almost nothing or least amount of pain to it. Being
Yeah,
a living
that I
being,
can.
yeah, being a living being, it doesn't mean that it does not feel any pain. So that is where that thin line exists, wherein the you cannot sustain your body by without eating living beings. You have to live upon other living beings to live for yourself. That is mandatory, because you have been given a body in such a manner that you cannot eat wood and stones and mud and earth. You have to eat a living being. Now within that, the shastra recommends that you eat plants and flowers and fruits, because they have the least consciousness, and that least consciousness allows them to feel the least amount of pain. Because that still minor amount of pain still exists, that's why that pap still comes into picture. And to circumvent that pap, offering of food to Krishna comes into picture. And then we can probably say that a human being is selfish, or let's say a devotee is selfish. Why? Because the fruit and flower was given by the tree, तो वो ट्री का मैंने उठाया, मैंने तो परमिशन भी नहीं मांगा वो ट्री से. Even if I asked for, I wouldn't even know whether the tree has responded yes or no. So I plucked out a flower by myself from a tree and I offered it to Krishna. Why? Because Krishna says कि तुमको तुम्हारी भक्ति बढ़ेगी. So isn't it selfish on my part that I go to a tree, uska produce use karo, and offer it to Krishna and get the benefit and utilize it 100% for myself? So isn't that selfishness? So then the question automatically comes in ki what does the tree get out of it? when it produces a flower which I use and give it to Krishna and I get the benefit, तो tree को क्या मिलता है?
A tree is basically it will gain the same thing, that because it is being offered to the Lord, right?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
also doing a service by doing
Perfect.
that.
Perfect. Exactly. तो उसको क्या benefit मिलता है? Any would you know what is the benefit it gets? And once we understand this concept,
It can go to the next level, right?
Exactly. तो next level कौन सा होता है? Very good point. Next level कौन सा होगा?
Based on what we just read, right? The next level is something who can hear and
वो तो anyway उसको मिलेगा ना. Even if a tree is growing in the middle of the desert where there is no devotee, there is no fruit, there is no flower to pick up anything from the tree and to offer it to Krishna. तो फिर भी आज न कल तो वो ट्री मरेगा ही, एंड मरने के बाद उसको हायर लेवल स्पीशी तो मिलेगा ही. तो व्हाट इज इट एडिशनली दैट हैपेंस व्हेन आई pluck the flower and offer it to Krishna?
It is human form of life.
Exactly, exactly. So the benefit
sorry,
that
I didn't hear that. What was that?
yeah, so the benefit that the tree gets is it does not need to traverse from one species to another to another and then come to human level. It gets the human form immediately in the next life. That is the benefit it gets. So Abhi, now you can link all of these concepts together, ki how the modes of material nature they interact with each other, influence a human being or any species. Based on that, the person behaves, performs karma, does wrong karma, good karma, bad karma, all of these, based on which the consciousness gets affected, based on which the consciousness improves or goes down, based on which he starts getting another body in the same species or different species, and then based on that it starts navigating downwards, okay, to almost the plant level. Based on that, if some devotee plucks out a flower and all offers it to Krishna, then it either organically, if nobody offers any fruit or flower, organically it will rise upwards based on the level of consciousness and come to the human level, or it can take, instead of going staircase by staircase approach, it will go as an elevator, that a devotee takes a fruit or a flower offered to Krishna and it goes to the human level directly. तो ये पूरा का पूरा कॉन्सेप्ट गेट्स लिंक्ड विथ ईच अदर perfectly well.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Tulsi Maharani plant. Tulsi plant comes into which species? Prabhu?
It doesn't
Does it
come
been
into the,
considered into?
no, it
Doesn't come into this.
no, she doesn't.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. So basically, then all, on what basis does our consciousness get impacted? Any idea? What is the primary influencing factor for our consciousness?
Food.
Based on what do you decide what food you should eat and all?
Based on the principle which we just talked about, right? The
No, I'm saying
food that
for you to decide that you would like to eat some food, may it be veg or non-veg, whatever it is. But how do you decide? What's the basis? That basis is
Probably the
consciousness.
mind and intelligence.
Yeah, so that basis is consciousness. Consciousness actually is gets impacted by your mind and intelligence. But your level of consciousness determines your actions, and your consciousness gets impacted by your association of people. If you associate with devotees, you will become a devotee. If you associate with sinful people, you will also become sinful people. That is why you will see, especially in this purport and in general also, Prabhupada gives extra emphasis on the people you associate with. Hare Krishna. Shall I move ahead or any question? Chalo, let's go look at verse number 42. स एवेदं जगद्धाता Bhagavan dharma rupadrik पुष्णाति स्थापयन् विश्वं तिर्यन्नर सुराद्भिः सुरादिभिः. Hare Krishna. Anybody? Translation and purport? Rao Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Translation. He, the personality of Godhead, as the maintainer of all in the universe, appears in different incarnations after establishing the creation, and thus he reclaims all kinds of conditioned souls among the humans, the non-human and the demigods. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, incarnates himself in different societies of living entities to reclaim them from the clutches of illusion, and such activities of the Lord are not limited only to human society. He incarnates himself even as a fish, hog, tree, and many other forms, but less intelligent persons who have no knowledge of him deride him even if he is in human society as a human being. The Lord therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita 9.11, Avajananti Mamuda Manusing Tanum Ashitam Parambhavam Ajananto Mahabhuta Maheshwaram. As we have already discussed in the previous verses, it is concluded that the Lord is never a product of the material creation. His transcendental position is always unchanged. He is the eternal form of knowledge and bliss, and he executes his almighty will by his different energies. As such, he is never the subject of reactions for any of his acts. He is transcendental to all such conceptions of actions and reactions. Even if he is visible in the material world, the exhibition is only of his internal energy, for he is above the good and bad conceptions of this material world. In the material world, the fish or the hog may be considered lower than the man, but when the Lord appears as a fish or hog, he is neither of them in the material conception. It is his causeless mercy that he appears in every society or species of life, but is never to be considered one of them. Conceptions of the material world, such as good and bad, lower and upper, important and insignificant, are estimations of the material energy, and the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all such conceptions. The words Param Bhavam or transcendental nature can never be compared to the material conception. We should not forget that the potencies of the Almighty Lord are always the same and do not decrease because of the Lord assumes the form of a lower animal. There is no difference between Lord Sri Rama, Lord Sri Krishna, and his incarnations as the fish and hog. He is all pervading and simultaneously localized at any and every place. But the foolish person with a poor fund of knowledge, for want of that Param Bhavam of the Lord, cannot understand how the Supreme Lord can take the form of a man or a fish. One compares everything to one's own standard of knowledge, as a frog in the well considers the sea to be sea to be look like the well. The frog in the well cannot even think of the sea, and when such a frog is informed of the greatness of the sea, it takes the conception of the sea as a big little greater than the well. As such, one who is foolish about the transcendental science of the Lord will find it difficult to understand how Lord Vishnu can equally manifest himself in every society of living entities. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna. So beautiful. So we always make that mistake of estimating the Lord based on our imagination. So the concept here is, whatever fits my imagination, if the Lord fits within this, then I accept him. If there is anything which is outside my imagination, and the Lord's concept is being talked about as that which is outside the imagination, then I consider that to be mythology, right? So this word mythology has been thrusted upon us because there were certain influential people who were who who saw the Lord as not fitting within their imagination, and that's why they considered this to be something which is not true, which is a myth. And anything which is a myth or part of that concept of myth is called as mythology. So, because the Lord can only come as a human being, that's why if you have a scripture which talks about the Lord coming as a hog, or Lord coming as a fish, or Lord coming as a tortoise, okay, then it is mythology. Why? Because it doesn't fit my concept, my imagination. So to say that the Lord can be limited, at one end, it is said that the Lord is omnipotent, right? Which means the Lord is capable of doing everything. But at the next moment, they will say, yeah, you may be omnipotent, but you cannot come as a hog. You cannot come as a fish. You cannot come as a tortoise. If you do, then it doesn't fit my conception. And that means even if you are in front of me, I will consider you to be non existent. And I will treat you as mythology. So, what Prabhupada extends this point further to say that forget the other species. The Lord is not accepted even when he comes in the form of a human being also. Okay, that's why this verse carries an extraordinary importance in the ninth chapter. Avajananti mam mudha. We talked about the meaning of avajananti, right? Something which is wrongly understood. Saying those people think of me as an ordinary human being. They do not understand my param bhavam, that my transcendental nature is beyond this material world. Within the material world, even a human being or the best of the human being is also still part of the material nature. And I am even above that also. Mattah parataram nanyat. There is absolutely no truth which is superior to me. There is nothing that exists above me. Let alone above me, there is nothing even equal to Krishna. To say that something above exists above him is also foolishness. He is saying that because it doesn't fit your concept, you think of me as a normal, ordinary human being, and then you say that, okay, ये तो क्या है, एक दो तीन लोगों को मारा उसने, आके कुछ तो लोगों को झगड़ा करके चला गया, उसको कैसे गॉड बोलेंगे हम लोग? Yeah? ये somebody who marries 16,000 women, हाँ, वो कोई गॉड होगा तुम्हारा? Let alone ordinary people. Even Brahma was confused when Krishna was eating with his gopas, when he was mixing the food of all of the gopas together and eating all of that together. सब खाना एक ही मीनिंग सब सारे लड़के लोग अपने झूठे हाथ, okay, were putting in different say the containers and they were eating from that. Krishna was even eating when we eat, we don't let the food touch the second part, second half of our fingers, right? That is the etiquette. We do not let the palm touch the food. Okay, तो कृष्णा तो ऐसे खा रहा था कि वो उंगली के बीच में पिकल रखता था, एंड वो देख के ब्रह्मा खुद कंफ्यूज हो गए. लेट अलोन नॉर्मल ऑर्डिनरी ह्यूमन बीइंग कंफ्यूज्ड. ब्रह्मा जी खुद बिकम कंफ्यूज कि हाउ कैन सच अ पर्सन बी गॉड, एंड देन ही कम्स डाउन टू टेस्ट हिम. Now, what we highlighting here is, for such people who are deluded, the Lord still does not disown them. The Lord still comes down, and he comes in different incarnations, and he comes down to reclaim these fallen conditioned souls. Okay, एक, and that is where the merciful nature of the Lord can be understood. At one end, अपने मम्मी डैडी भाई बहन कुछ अपने को गलत बोलते तो वी आर रेडी टू डिसोन देम. ओके, कोई अब लोग, कोई लड़के ऐसे भी होते जो जाके, मीनिंग दे कैन इवन डू रॉन्ग थिंग्स टू देयर रिलेटिव्स एंड पेरेंट्स आल्सो. हियर द लॉर्ड is aham bija pradapita. He is the father of each and every living entity, and despite that, people disown him. People do not believe in his existence. People give bad words to him. People curse him, but still he comes down to take you back to the spiritual world. Look at the merciful nature. कौन करेगा इतना? despite the incorrect behavior we display towards the Lord, despite that the Lord continues to display mercy on us. कौन करेगा इतना? Hare Krishna. Okay, one more verse let's do today. ततः कालाग्निरुद्रात्मा यत्सृष्टम् इदमात्मनः सन्नियच्छति तत्काले घनानि कमि वानिलः.
I'll read. Okay. Translation. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, at the end of the millennium, the Lord himself, in the form of Rudra, the destroyer, will alienate the complete creation as the wind displaces the clouds. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. This creation is very appropriately compared to clouds. Clouds are created or situated in the sky, and when they are displaced, they remain in the same sky without manifestation. Similarly, the whole creation is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form of Brahma. It is maintained by him in the form of Vishnu, and it is destroyed by him in the form of Rudra or Shiva. All in due course. This creation, maintenance, and destruction are nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita 8.19 and 20 as follows. Buddha Grama,
Okay, I'll
you can
read it.
read that. Yeah.
भूतग्रामः स एवायं भूत्वा भूत्वा प्रलीयते रात्र्यागमे वशः पार्थ प्रभवत्यः रागमे परस्तस्मात्तु भावन्योद्व्यक्तो व्यक्तात् सनातनः यः स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नश्यत्सु न विनश्यति.
The nature of the material world is that it is first created very nicely, then it develops very nicely and stays for a great number of years, even beyond the calculation of the greatest mathematician. But after that, it is again destroyed during the night of Brahma, without any resistance. And at the end of the night of Brahma, it is again manifested as a creation to follow the same principles of maintenance and destruction. The foolish conditioned soul who has taken this temporary world as a permanent settlement has to learn intelligently why such creations and destruction takes place. The fruitive actors in the material world are very enthusiastic in the creation of big enterprises, big houses, big empires, big industries, and so many big things out of the energy and ingredients supplied by the material agents of the Supreme Lord, which such resources and at the cost of valuable energy, the conditioned soul creates, satisfies his whims, but unwillingly has to depart from all his creation and enter into another phase of life to create again and again. To give hope to such foolish conditioned souls who waste their energy in this temporary material world, the Lord gives information that there is another nature which is externally existent without being occasionally created or destroyed, and that the conditioned soul can understand what he should do and how his valuable energy may be utilized. Instead of wasting his energy in matter, which is sure to be destroyed in due course by the supreme will, the conditioned soul should utilize his energy in the devotional service of the Lord so that he can be transferred to the other eternal nature where there is no birth, no death, no creation, no destruction, but permanent life instead, full of knowledge and unlimited bliss. The temporary creation is thus exhibited and destroyed just to give information to the conditioned soul who is attached to temporary things. It is also meant to give him a chance for self-realization and not for sense gratification, which is the prime aim of all fleeting actors. Thank
Jai.
you.
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada, Hare
So,
Krishna.
so beautifully written, So in one of the classes, there was one question that was asked as to why is it necessary uh, to go outside this material world? if I am living according to the rules of the Lord, not committing any sinful activity, why can I not remain in this material world? Yeah, which is a kind of a question logically put up, right? So, because meaning this question goes based on the concept of karma. I do good, I get good. I do bad, I get bad. And we want good, nobody wants bad. So, if I continuously perform good actions and I get good results, then why can I not stay here? Yeah, this is where this question, this verse comes in picture, and it tells us that this world is not a permanent place. This is temporary. So you may continue to perform good activities and get good results also, but this world in which you intend to remain permanently, that world in itself is not a permanent place. That world in itself will get destroyed and recreated. So, what is the chance that you will continue to remain here without any problem? Zero. And you will have that nature of performing good activities, that is also zero. So, immediately in the verses 17, 18, and 19 of the 8th chapter, that this is the 19th verse, Krishna talks about the destruction. He talks about the characteristics of the material world, in which he talks about destruction primarily. So the word bhutagrama, the word bhutagrama is important here, which says that anything and everything related to material world. Grama is encompassing everything, not leaving out anything. Okay, it is destroyed. Anything and everything that which is material in nature is destroyed. And that is where the next verse comes into picture. Paras tasmatu bhavo anyo, meaning beyond this one, there is another world. Okay. When this world, yasa sarveshu bhuteshu, whatever in this world, when it gets destroyed, that world remains na vinashyati. Na nashyatsu na vinashyati. That world never gets destroyed, which is what Krishna is talking about the spiritual world. So, verse 20, 21, and 22, he talks about the characteristics of the spiritual world, which does not get destroyed. Now, for one to understand that I wish to live in this material world permanently, that world, because it itself will not exist after a certain amount of time, that world, in comparison with that world, there is a spiritual world where where Prabhupada says that it has no birth, no death, no creation, no destruction, but permanent life, which is full of knowledge and unlimited bliss. Now, when you are getting an opportunity to lead such a life, why would we want to live a life which is undergoing creation and destruction? Hare Krishna. I actually wish to take up until verse number 45 today, but we have reached 26, 11:26 itself now. So I think I'll stop here now. We can take up these later. The verse 45, na, that's just one thing I'd like to highlight here. So all that we are studying here, okay, look at the verse here. It talks about the principle. Why this whole thing is being talked about by Shukadev Goswami, about what gets created, then what happens, then what gets created, and all that stuff. There are two factors behind this one. Okay. There is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. The Lord gets it done via his energies. So the sarga aspect, the creation of the basic material elements, is created by the Lord, and that creation is done via his energies. Once this is done, then Brahmaji, he takes up these material elements and then subjects it to the process as described in the Vedas, based on which he creates the material world. Okay. And then the material world functions and sustains and is later destroyed. Okay. Why this is told? That Krishna tells in this one. So, what is described about in the Vedas, his direct interference is to only counter the idea that material nature is a creator in itself. Okay, so whenever people, you come across people, right, where people say ki there is no God, this material nature in itself is God. Okay, but they are unable to answer questions. How did the material nature get created? They cannot answer the question. But this verse tells us that the Lord's interference is told only to counteract the idea that material nature is not the creator. There is a Lord behind the creation. But actually, the Lord gets all of these things done by his energies. Now, because these energies are impersonal, okay, in terms of not having a physical form, that's why one is unable to understand the presence of these energies. That's why they think that because the Lord doesn't exist and these energies cannot be seen, that's why material nature by itself is the creator. So that wrong thinking has to be countered, and that is the reason the Vedas talk about the Lord as the creator himself. So we'll see this in the next week then. Hare Krishna. Any question? No?
Hare
No.
Krishna.
Nothing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So let's meet next week then.
Prabhuji, one question, bro.
Ha.
Prabhuji, the Lord has said that a devotee who is serving selflessly is no, he is the topmost actually. So even compared to the devotee who is preaching, I mean, who is clearing the doubts of the others. So is he eligible to go to the go to the Goloka or the abode of the Lord?
So practically speaking, the Lord will not take us back if we are not eligible. Okay. And if we are not eligible, the Lord will take the responsibility upon himself to make us eligible also. तो ऐसा कभी स्टेज नहीं होगा वेर इन यू आर नीदर इन द प्रोसेस नॉर यू आर इन द आउटपुट स्टेज. So if you are in the output stage and you are completely ready to go back to Godhead, तो कृष्णा तो ले ही जाएगा, right? It is obvious. But if you are in the process, तो आपको प्रोसेस के थ्रू लेके जाके परफेक्ट करने का काम भी लॉर्ड ही करेगा. which
Correct.
which means if you are say 95% pure, 5% impurity है, तो वो 5% impurity हमको वो जो results है उसके वो देगा. He will give the teaching also, and that way he will make us pure, and once we become pure he will take us there.
Correct. Right.
वो 10:14:8 जो है ना, एक बार जरा वो पढ़ लेना उसका परपोर्ट.
ठीक प्रभु. Well, thank you so much. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna. See you next week.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.